Audiophile ASMR. Audiophile ASMR. Hello, gear nerds of the internet. This is a Dynaco ST70, or Stereo 70. Most people call it the ST70. You can see it says Dynakit. What that means is that someone built this themselves. If this was built by Dynaco, it would say Dynaco, not Dynakit. What does that mean? What do you mean built by a kit? Well, if we travel back in time to the 50s, 60s, and maybe even the 70s, people would buy kits to build their own electronic devices. It wasn't such a specialty thing. People just knew how to do stuff back then, unlike today where people don't know how to do anything. So if you juxtapose people from the 50s and 60s building their own amplifiers, fast forward 2 decades to the 80s, people would buy VCRs they couldn't set the clock on. It's amazing. People are becoming more useless every day. So what is this thing? It is a tube power amp. My goodness. So these things came out a long time ago. I think they were originally released in the late 50s. And they made them, I think, up to the early 70s, but I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, put it down below. Let me know where I'm wrong. These things, since that they were built, have created quite the following for themselves. And if you think about vintage power amps, two power amps particularly, two would come to mind. The Macintosh MC275, which is good money. I should have bought one 20 years ago when they were like $1,500. Now they're like $5,000. I will never own one. And the Dynaco ST70, which was less money, but they sold a lot more of these. They sold hundreds of thousands of these things. Which is incredible, right? Like, no one's selling that much audio gear these days. Kind of crazy. So, you have 4 EL34 power tubes, a GZ34 rectifier. I don't know. There's another name, 5AU4? I don't know. That sounds right. No, maybe it doesn't. I'll put the right other name here. And then it has 2 7199 preamp tubes. They look like 12AX7s. I assure you they are not. These things are now hard to find. I don't believe that there's any current manufacturers making them, because I believe that these are the only amplifiers that were commonly made that had them. On the front you have this and this, which you can bias this set of tubes and this set of tubes. Use it putting a multimeter here and then grounding to any of the other ones. And then there is your bias trim pot for that side, bias trim pot for this side. It's heavy. Then you have your input. It's on the front, marginally annoying, maybe more than marginal. Stereo mono switch. You turn the sucker around. You have screw-on terminals, which now you can buy screw-on terminals where you can put banana plugs in. They're like $12 on Amazon. You should probably buy them if you have, unless you like really screwing on these things. I don't. I like banana plugs where I can just plug them in because I'm lazy. Here's your on-off switch. Stereo switch you would think would be on the back, and then this would be on the front. Nope. Why would they do that? And then you have a non-grounded plug. Now, I had been looking for one of these for about 20 years. Since I've gotten into hi-fi. And they made a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. And sometimes they'll pop up on Craigslist, but not very often. I found this on Craigslist with a PAS 3X. And in my KN A55TP video, I said I was never Gonna buy another tube power amplifier again. And like a week later I saw that and I bought it. Imagine that. So I had been looking for one for years, decided I was never going to buy one, and then I bought one because one became available. These things have a cult following now. There's this board on top here. You can get this whole board swapped out, pre-populated. All you have to do is solder it in underneath to the connections, and boom. I mean, they sell some with different types of tubes because these tubes, like I said, are rare. They have some I've seen with a third tube in the center. I don't know what that does. Probably something awesome. If you know, put it down below. Let's see. What else can we talk about with the Dynaco ST70? Maybe there's nothing else to talk about. So, I plugged this in, and usually I'm disappointed with audio. I'm not going to lie. I'm usually disappointed with everything. I have expectations that are hardly ever met. And it sounded fantastic. It is... Does it have all the bass of my Vidar? No. Does it have all the highs of my Vidar? No. Does it have all the details of my Vidar? No. But there's something incredibly engaging and palpable about listening to music on this thing versus the Vidar. Which is why people still bother with tubes. If they didn't sound better, no one would care, right? Like, these things now are expensive. Incredibly, if you can even find tubes anymore, they're incredibly expensive. They get hot, they can burn you. Little kids can grab them and cry. In fact, I was working on a guitar amplifier when I was younger. And I had walked away for half a second, and my little son, who was maybe 3, grabbed both of the 6L6s and burned his little hands, and it made me cry. And these things can make you cry. Paying what they cost right now will make you cry. The Vidar won't make you cry. But you know what? When else you might cry is listening to the music, because it's more engaging on this than the Vidar. Vidar is a great amp, but it's not a tube amp. And there's something about a good tube amp that just sounds better than a solid state amp. To me, and maybe not to you. But again, there's like this vivid sort of realism that you get out of a tube amp that you just don't get out of a solid state amp, in my experience. I wish it weren't the case, because I would love not to worry about these things, but then I do. It's stupid. Where was I going after that? What was I going to say? Derp. Well, let's go to these guys. So these things are expensive. Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. Let's talk about bass. Since everyone says that solid state has better bass, and that tube amps have flubby, muddy, soft bass, and they want tighter bass. This point is always lost on me due to the fact that bass in its natural state is not tight. Listen to the strings of an acoustic guitar strung. There's not a taut there. I mean, there is a tautness, but there's also a loose sort of feeling to the way that the strings vibrate. Listen to a bass drum. When it's hit, it's not. There's a looseness to it. It's not tight. Like, this idea of tight bass is actually unnatural, quite frankly. Which, I mean, I can understand faster sounding bass. I can understand more bass. I could even understand punchier bass, but the idea of the bass not being tight enough, I don't understand, because bass kind of has a rumbly, soft feel to it, and it's in the natural music world. But I digress. So let's talk about these tubes, since there's people who say that these tubes are not good, they don't sound good. That's subjective. These things are hard to find. I don't believe there's any current manufacturers making them, as I may have already said. I don't know. This is the second time I'm making this video, because the first time I made it, my microphone was kind of off, but kind of on. It showed that it was on, but it was off. So I fixed it. So back to these tubes. I don't know that anyone makes these currently, although the state of tubes right now is crazy. So who the hell knows? So what they make, because, like I said, people are modding these things all day long. They're doing all kinds of stuff. You can buy replacement parts for everything. You can buy a replacement part for this. You buy replacement output transformer. You could buy replacement this guy. Those boards in the back, you could replace those. You could replace them not only with what's there, but you could replace them with ones that have modern speaker terminals. And then you could also buy these. What is this? Well, this, if I can get this tube out of there, it's very tight in there. Unlike the bass on this amp, it's very tight. This changes the pinout from this, for this kind of tube, because who wants to pay $50 for these when you can buy this 6GH8A for like $10? And I guess you pay like maybe, I don't know, $20 for this. And then that pops into here, to that socket. And then that pops into that socket. And now you're running different preamp tubes, so you don't have to worry about those. In terms of these sounding better, I guess maybe this has a little bit tighter bass, which again, not a thing that I care about, and extended highs, maybe a little bit. I don't know if that's so important. I don't notice a huge difference. I do notice a slight difference. So, whatever you want to take from that. This I had sitting around for a long time. This is, I don't know if you can see what's in there. Those are solid state rectifier diodes. You can replace this with this. Theoretically, it should make the amp run a little bit easier. It will also theoretically tighten up that bass a little bit, because this has natural sag and give to the sound, whereas this thing does not. Interestingly enough, I found that this made the amp sound less loud and less powerful, which is usually the opposite of what you would get from a solid state rectifier. So I don't know, maybe there's something about this circuit. I know that there's like some sort of rectifier inside that I don't understand, because I'm not a tube tech. I can just do a little bit of tube stuff. I can't do a lot of tube stuff. Let's see. What else shall we talk about? So, again, you can find these with new boards in it. You can find them that are completely redone, that don't even look like these anymore. They'll migrate all the stuff to the back. You can find mods where you can bias each tube separately, because right now you can just do it in pairs, which is better than all at the same time. You can find just a bazillion mods out here, because it's a great mod platform. It's a good sounding amp. So you can buy one of those. You can buy one like this that has been lovingly cared for, or you can buy one that looks like something dug out of the Titanic wreck, where this is just like it's completely pitted and gross. But you can buy everything separately at this point. There's multiple web pages that carry stuff for these things. If you want to buy a tube amp to tinker it with, this one Might be the best one out there for that sort of thing. There's really not a whole lot else that is as modifiable as the Dynaco stuff because people love it. They're still relatively inexpensive. These are like, you know, 800, 700, 800 bucks for a nice one. They can go over 1,000. You can buy a new reproduction of this thing. You can buy some real crappy ones for like 500. I would just spend 800 and get one that's nicer. Like you could even buy, like if this chassis is roached out, you can buy a replacement chassis. But you could also just buy one with a nicer chassis to begin with, because I'm sure the chassis is at least over 150 bucks. So I said I wasn't going to buy any more tube power amps or even integrated amps, but I guess it has a power amp in it. And then I saw this and I listened to this, and not going to lie, I like it a lot. I might keep it. If I keep it, I don't know, because I keep it and then I think about the mods, and then I think about all the headaches that I can get into with that, and then like I would definitely replace this cord with I would ground it, because I don't like the idea that this thing is gonna murder me someday. If anything murders me, it ought to be my wife. That seems fair. You know, like this guy's gonna go bad. This is an original cap. Those are only really designed to last 10 years, but that thing is at least 50. I mean, these aren't terribly expensive. I think you can get these for like 30 bucks. These multi-section can caps. So it's not bad. I don't know. I kind of don't want to deal with the headaches of tube amps and vintage. That's 2 headaches in one. Maybe I'll just stick with the Vidar. I don't want to make any definitive declarative statements, because as I've already demonstrated, I make them and then I just do an about face and do the opposite thing anyway. So maybe I'll sell this, maybe I'll keep it. I don't know. Stay tuned for more videos. Bye-bye.